everyone. Welcome to Inflight. I'm your host, Sol.
Hey, I'm Norm, XP. How you guys doing today?
Welcome to episode 16 of Inflight. We were very excited to see that last episode did really well. Thank you guys so much for that. It really means a lot to us, and it was quite the shock to wake up after posting it at around midnight my time and then see about almost 200 listens on SoundCloud and then another 100 on YouTube. That was very crazy to me. So thank you guys so much for the support. Norm, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Extremely busy, believe it or not, with all this crazy world stuff going around. But yeah, X-Plane has been keeping me busy, believe it or not. Streaming is keeping me busy. I'm good. And also to touch back on the podcast, thank you guys for just listening. I realize that now it's become a habit for you guys to expect a Threshold podcast to come out, and we're all too happy to give it to you guys. So thanks a lot for the support, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's very humbling to us, especially since the podcast has gone through so many waves, if I guess you could say, starting off with me and then completely reformatting everything and then being off for a while, and to see you guys still listening and still wanting to listen really means a lot. So thank you so much. As for myself, it's been a little bit more calm here because in New York, as a lot of you may know, we are in the epicenter of the whole crisis. So it's a little bit more serious here, but things are starting to calm down and people are starting to become a little bit more normal here about the whole thing. So I think I think I'm okay to start going outside and not have people do some dangerous things, for lack of a better word, which is very nice. I'd probably be going on a run soon because the weather has just been gorgeous here. We had a few storms, and then after that,
Jeez, how is it running in an empty New York City, man?
it's not too bad. I mean, I'm out of practice because I haven't run in about a month, because that's when it was really bad, and when people in my neighborhood at least were still kind of getting used to the whole social distancing thing. So they either weren't doing it or they really weren't taking it seriously. And while it's okay if some people don't take it seriously, some like I think it happened. What convinced me to stop is that I was running every single day, because at the time I thought that I would still be returning to school and I could claim my track record, which I really wanted to do this year, but not anymore. So I was running every day, but what made me stop was there like 3 days in a row, I just had people deliberately going really close to me, and I was like, that's
Yeah,
that's it
that's
for
it.
me.
I'm done. Stay away.
Yeah, but it's getting better, and the nicer weather definitely helps it all. And I'm sure you eagle-eyed viewers and listeners will know that the media section has been hard at work lately, working on a lot of new videos and projects for you guys, and that has been a lot of fun and has been taking up my time. And I'm finding myself getting closer to my threshold colleagues, which is rather nice. But that's our normal real lives. There's been quite a bit that's been happening in the sim community since we last were able to sit down, Norm and I, and speak to you guys. The biggest one, I would say, being Vulkan. Norm has a lot to say about it since he's been streaming with it a lot more. I've done one complete flight with it and I have no complaints. It was great, but Norm has done a handful and has been finagling his way with like the FT Sim sound packs and stuff. How has that been for you?
It's funny. It's like an adventure, right? So 99% of my flights since Vulkan dropped has been on Vulkan. I've only gone back to 11.4 once since Vulkan came out, just to fly the fact back to A320. That's it.
Hmm.
Everything else has been in Vulkan, and it has been good. It has been challenging because, as things were broken. Some things don't work, so you have to switch to a backup. For instance, my Swift client. For all you guys don't know, Swift client is the software used to connect to the VATSIM network. That doesn't work with Vulkan yet, as of this recording. So I had to go back to Xpilot, and I had to get Xpilot configured, and I had to get my CSLs over. So that was one challenge. Took a whole day with help from friends. Then I had to, some of the airplanes natively worked, like the Zebo, miraculously, right? But some took a little bit of tweaking to work. Like the TOLIS officially does not work in Vulkan, but I've found a way, as you mentioned, through the FT Sim sound pack to make that work. So that's a blessing, and that's good.
Hmm.
My frames, man, I mean, literally, I want to say doubled, you know.
Hmm.
But one of my members on the channel said, "Hey, it's not about frames; it's about stuttering." And then when he said that, I thought about it for a second. Goes, you know what? Yeah, I might have 75, 80 frames, but I don't have stuttering. I'm in New York City, loaded up with the wacky scenery and a airplane. And usually when I'm in New York, no matter what I do, no matter how good my computer is, there's stutters. There's no more
Yeah.
stutters in New York. So, short term, I'm like rejoicing for it. Long term, I see where X-Plane is going to go with Vulkan. So it's been great for me. Crashes, I've only experienced one crash so far off the sim. So for a beta, it's pretty solid in my opinion. I still maintain two installs of X-Plane for you guys. You can please, when you're updating to a beta, keep your original file separate. Do a second install of X-Plane. X-Plane allows you to do that. So I did that. Didn't take up any much more space. Just a little tip for you guys. I have three hard drives in my computer. One with X-Plane, one with custom scenery, and one with my ortho tiles. And you can map the ortho and the custom scenery to as many different installs of X-Plane as you want. So you don't have to have them duplicate or triplicate. So that's been a blessing. But I would
Yeah.
say overall, Vulkan is good. I mean, have you tried it at all? So
Yeah, I did one flight in it 2 weeks ago. I hopped into the 700 Ultimate,
right,
and I flew from Anchorage down to it's it's KBWI, but I don't remember what the name of that airport is. It's directly north of Seattle and just south of Vancouver, so very close to the two.
right.
Um, Luke is one of our staff members, and he recommended that I did do that flight, so I decided to do it instead of doing the regular Seattle hop,
Right.
and it was great. I haven't done a flight in super serious scenery, um, but I did do that same thing in New York. Actually, my ultimate test to know if I have gotten my frames all set is if I go on to, I believe it's 3-1 left. It's the really long one that the Concorde usually went out of, and it faces directly into the city. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember which one that is. Oh no, I think it's 04. Um, I don't know, whatever it is. My ultimate test is I always plant the plane there and then I take off from that runway. And if I'm able to take off from the runway and I'm able to not have too many stutters or too many frame rate losses, then that means that I've gotten the correct rendering settings.
At the right
And I
setting.
have, yeah, and I have pretty heavy settings right now. I have anti-aliasing is pretty high, and I cranked the scenery objects all the way to high, and I can take off from there, and I get the lowest 30 frames per second, at least in the Zebo. So that was really nice. But the flight that I did to BWI, that was also very impressive because the weather was really not great. And sometimes my simulator will freeze up a little bit when I'm closer to the clouds, but I just didn't have that this time. So the one flight that I did, it's very promising. Um, but the only issue for me is that my favorite planes are the ones that are not supported yet,
Yeah.
such as the Jar. I love that plane. No, not the Jar. Sorry, the Flight Factor.
I
I
was gonna
really love that
say,
plane.
yeah, the
Yeah,
jar flashback. Come on, man, don't say that.
yeah,
Two
yeah.
different leagues, but yeah, I
Um,
understand.
yeah, I love the Flight Factor, and it's very hard to go back after that. Um,
Yeah, that's the only
so
thing. That's why I took the jar out the hanger, and people are like, "Really?" But hey, I give it a shot. They're coming out with a new update soon, hopefully sooner than later, and we'll work that. But with Vulkan, as you were saying earlier, I forgot the settings. I've cranked up my settings now to max in rendering, max in almost a couple of things, and it's like whatever.
yeah.
Computer is like, yeah, I like it. So that's a good thing, man. I mean, it's a positive step. One of the biggest steps for laminar, believe it or not, is Vulkan.
Oh yeah.
So one can only imagine where they're going to go from here once this is all sorted out. And pretty solid betas. Beta 5 now it's up to, or beta 6. So I'm enjoying it, I must say. So I'll keep with it. I'm going to sacrifice the flight factor for now until it's
Yeah.
ready. But I'm good to go with it.
Yeah, the biggest issues I had was beta 2. I couldn't get beta 2 to work, but after that, it was totally fine with me. And I wonder if this whole Vulkan coming to life and giving people more excitement about X-Plane, since they're able to have it be more beautiful since they have more scenery. I wonder if that has anything to do with the record traffic that we've been seeing on VATSIM too, because I have not seen as many controllers as I saw last Friday night on the night network
Yes.
ever. The entire US, including Alaska, which that like never happens, was totally lit up. And I was so in shock.
So my regular Thursday routine is to plan for Friday flying
Yeah.
prior to streaming, and I usually do the FNO. So I looked it up, and there was technically no FNO. It was called Open Mic Night on VATSIM. And
Mhm.
basically, they said that everybody, staff everywhere as much as you can. That was it. And I remember flying, and I showed it to the guys. They're like, "Hey, listen, the entire United States is covered at air traffic control." I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever seen that ever.
I've never
So,
seen that.
and that's record traffic. At the end of all of this, I think VATSIM will or probably should come out with a thing that shows what the peak traffic was, because this is, imagine if it was like this all the time. You know,
Yeah.
good times in life, in real life, but on the sim, we had traffic like this covering the entire US or even Europe. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
But
that'd be sick.
oh yeah, been crazy.
For me, it was crazy for me to see. They're online right now, which is funny, but it was crazy to see Houston Oceanic on, because I've that's another air traffic controller that I've never seen on before,
Houston
and also like
Oceanic. Wow.
what?
Houston Oceanic, you said?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and there was like some places in Mexico that I've never seen online before either. Like Central America was on, and I have never ever seen a controller in Central America on. Sometimes in Brazil, and around there, but usually never. And it was really, and kind of a sight for sore eyes. It was super pretty to see all the planes in the air, and it was really emotional as well to see like so many people willing to like participate in this and just have fun together. And I can tell, I am currently training to be a minor controller at the Oakland RTEC right now, and I can tell that they're having a blast controlling as well with all the traffic that they're getting in right now, and it's really nice to see that.
I know. Man, if we could keep this going even after all the craziness is over in real life, it would be nice. It would, it's a dream. But yeah, all my flights, I've had controllers for the most part. People hopping on knowing that there's a couple of airplanes coming into their sector. They just jump online and control it. You know, it's good, man. The community right now is at a high level. I don't know about you, but my feeling with just, the entire community, all the add-ons coming out, the sceneries coming out, developers giving away free scenery for a couple of days, just the whole thing, you know, makes me smile at the community right now the way it is. So it's good. I hope we can continue that. Definitely.
Yeah, me too. And if I know if I were listening to us talk that I would be really inspired to fly. But this is kind of like our call to you guys. If you guys are really inspired to fly, just do it. Don't let it stop you. I know that it's a little bit hard sometimes when you have to think about all the flight planning that you have to do and all the filing that you have to do on VATSIM, but really, this is never going to happen again. And if we keep on flying together, um, everybody's just gonna like enjoy themselves so much more. I love all the traffic that's coming in, and I love the enthusiasm that I've been getting from controllers and everybody. Everybody's having a great time. So go out and fly. Do yourself a favor and join us all in the skies while we have this, because we might not ever have VATSIM glowing up as much as it does. Well, having the night
I
sky glow
concur.
up as much
I
as it is
concur.
right now.
Oh yeah, I concur on that. Definitely. Definitely.
Um, Now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we are going to talk to Dan from SimToolkitPro. Dan is the main programmer of SimToolkitPro, and actually, yeah, the only one, with the exception of Delaney, who we talked about a little bit, who worked on the most recent update, the visual overhaul. He was really, really great to talk to. We the two of us kind of talked about Linux, which you guys might not know too much about, but we tried to explain what we were talking about as much as we could, since we both have some programming backgrounds here and there. And we got really into the specifics of how SimToolkit Pro is developed, and talked a little bit about the future of SimToolkit Pro and what that's going to look like, and what Dan's vision is for the platform overall, and what it has meant to him. Because almost directly quoting him, the platform has really blown up in these past few months. So we were really excited to have him, and we're going to head off to that now. Hey, Dan, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. How are you doing? It's really late for you. It's pretty early for Norm and I, but how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me. Just rolling past 11 p.m. here.
Ooh, we have a night owl, I see. I guess we share that.
Yeah, it fits in perfectly with my usual sleep cycle.
Yeah.
I think nobody in the sim world have a good sleep cycle anymore since we've all been flying and quarantining and flying and quarantining. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, last week I did a dual transcon, and that just that's just like proof that my sleep schedule is absolutely gone if I'm willing to do that. But anyway, we're really excited to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on. But let's just hop right into it. So, Dan, walk us through how you got to where you are today, what your background experience is, and how SimToolkit Pro came to be a reality.
Cool. I've basically been a playing nerd since a very young age, and I've spent the past 18 years doing websites and software development. So this is kind of like just mashing the two together.
Mm-hmm.
It started out as a nice little pet project, something that I wanted to do to learn some new technologies and help myself get better at not leaving holes in runways.
Right.
And it's very, very recently spiraled out of my control.
Yeah.
It's grown way beyond anything that I thought it would very, very recently. But it started life as just a landing practice tool.
Oh wow! Okay.
Probably 12 months ago, it was literally just position your plane, land the plane, get a report about your landing, and then more and more features have been added. And it's just become incredibly community driven recently. So it's now driven by what people want to see in the application, rather than my original vision for it, which seems to be working really well at the moment.
No, I think it is. Let me just step and say that the community project you mentioned has been the reason why I heard about it. It wasn't surfing the forums or anything. Someone said, "Hey, you have to Sim Toolkit Pro." I'm like, "Sim Toolkit what?" You're like, "Yeah, Pro." Because I'm sure you're gonna get into it, but with the overlays just for streamers alone, it's worth it. I just realized what you just said, that it does have a landing practice tool somewhere in the program, and it's a massive program at this point. So it's interesting to know that that's actually where it started from. But I'm sure you're going to tell us that journey on it, though. Wow.
Yeah, it was. I was sick of not doing very well at landing, and I wanted to be able to quickly repeat them to just get better at it. And the products that were available for doing that were quite expensive, and I was like, this is something that I could probably approach and try my hand at. So I ended up with a very rough. I think it used to be called FS Toolkit, and then it became a little bit more universal. But yeah, it did start just as a position your aircraft, get a landing report, and then it was uploaded for people to use, and it kind of just grew from there. More and more people wanted to use it. People wanted Mac versions, Linux versions. So at the beginning of last year, I kind of committed to fully redesigning it and redeveloping it in such a way that I could work cross-platform. Still working on the Mac and Linux versions, but we're getting very close with them now. So yeah, it's just sort of blossomed into this huge sprawling toolkit that covers just about every aspect of simming at the moment.
Would you say it's user driven? Basically, all users of X-Plane are the ones who are putting most of the requests for it.
Yeah, very much so. The issue that I have is as a simmer and a pilot, I'm very low end. I'm very novice. Um, but I've done 18 years of development,
Mm-hmm.
so I can achieve what people want out of the app. Um, I don't know what people's wants are. I don't always know the specifics of types of information that they want to get out of the tool. So they'll tell me what they want. I'll figure out how to get that information, and then it ends up in there. I don't know enough about flying planes to sort of drive that myself. So people come to me and say, "Oh, can you make it do this? Can you get this information?" I think one of the hardest ones was calculating ISA deviation at an airport, and that I ended up having to look up how all that works. But now it will do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, most of the features are driven by people's requests and what they want the app to do, and what information they want from the app.
That's great. You're doing, in a lot of ways, you're doing the community like a great service by doing that, because it's kind of just like you're the one, you're the person who just listens to everybody and just delivers it, which is very much what SimToolkit Pro has seemed to come out to be.
Yeah, I'm spending way too much time on the Discord for it at the moment. I think I've had to distance myself from the suggestions that come in and only check every once a week or so at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I must say at this point, it is a massive program. I mean, I'm sure if I want to use the word massive, but it's a powerful program with so many different things that I'm new to it. I actually haven't debuted on my flying and streaming yet, but I've only been using a fraction of what this thing is capable of. I mean, didn't take you too long to get to
Yeah.
that point, did it?
No, it's the platform that I use, Electron, has kind of enabled me to rapidly develop things. A lot of people are quite shocked at how quickly I can turn out updates or add features that are requested, and it's just the power of the base platform that I'm using and the fact that I've been doing this for so long. It just makes it a bit easier to rapidly develop and iterate on things. So I think the biggest feature by far was the SimBrief integration for dispatching flights.
Yes.
That was very complicated to get working. I learned an awful lot about flight planning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was probably the biggest part of the app so far.
So can you walk us through how you got that to work? Because I mean, I look at SimToolkit Pro and I see so many things, which must have taken a lot of time to figure out, I'm sure. But also when, I just quickly pulled up what Electron is, and, open source stuff is always really nice. So I'm sure that it was really easy to do with that. But how did you go about that process with SimBrief and getting that down?
The one thing that SimToolkit does is it consumes an awful lot of third-party API data. So SimBrief has an API that allows, I think it's primarily used by virtual airlines for flight planning purposes, and SimToolkit uses their API to the fullest. You can customize every aspect of your flight as if you were on the SimBrief site, and trying to allow more than just a basic flight planning through SimBrief was kind of key. I wanted to make sure that you didn't have to go to the SimBrief site to alter your plan or adjust it
Right.
or anything. So I'm fairly sure that every part of their API is being used in some way for advanced planning. So you can go from just putting in a departure airport and arrival airport as a bare minimum,
Mm-hmm.
right through to customizing your passenger weight, cargo load, specific route you want to fly. Do you want it to generate SIDS and stars for you? And then it sends all that off to their API, it then pulls back the result and displays it for you, so you can edit it, tweak it slightly, pick different procedures based on the weather or whatever, and then you can start your flight and record it all.
Wow,
Now
that's crazy.
that is key because 100% of my flights I use SimBrief to plan it, and having that
Yeah.
at your fingertip along with other tools integrated in there makes a huge difference for a person like me who don't have a lot of time to prep, but everything is in one place, and that's what I like. I mean, how have you managed to keep it still user friendly and simple with so much different abilities that it has?
I didn't for the first part.
Mhm.
That's the problem with being a developer for so long. I didn't ever do front end work. It was mainly server development. So everything kind of ended up designed for a developer, and it was like, I know why it's here, so people should know why it's there,
Yeah.
and that doesn't work. So this is where the community coming back to me and saying, yeah, this doesn't make sense, or try and organize this a bit differently. And the feedback that I've got has basically allowed me to create a much better UI. And obviously, this weekend we've got a full new UI coming out, which was actually developed by um, Delaney for me. He kind of prototyped it, and then I worked for a couple of nights to get that out to everyone.
Awesome.
That's great.
And that seems to be being received really well
Y-
at the moment.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about the new UI. What were some of your goals going into it, besides the obvious, which we just spoke about, which is just making it more user friendly? What did you want to bring to it?
Feature creep was killing the UI. Adding constantly new features, new additions to it was making a very cluttered experience, and it was in desperate need of being tidied up and kind of reined in a bit. So that was kind of the focus with the redesign. There's still a few bits that I need to iterate on, but for the most part, everything's kind of been slimmed down. Everything's been reorganized and put where it makes more sense now, as well as putting in a bit more guidance for the user, because a lot of the support queries have been stuff that I kind of go, well, that seems really obvious to me, but it's not obvious if you don't know where to look for it. So it's kind of been guiding the user's hand a bit better into where things are, so they can use it a bit more effectively.
That's great. Go ahead, Norm.
No, I'm looking at the feature list here just on the Toolkit Pro forum here on explain.org, and you have what, 21 or 23 key features in here. One of
Yeah, that could well be out of date as well.
could be, right? One of which is, what about the integration with Navigraph? And you have a Navigraph pull-out tab or something like that. How did that come into play? And does Navigraph help you with that, or give you APIs to work with, or how does that play?
Yeah, back in October, I reached out to them because I was relying on people copying X-Plane's data, nav data, into a specific folder for SimToolkit to work. And that wasn't ever going to work in kind of an environment where I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people. So I reached out to them. They were great in working with me to help me using their data source, providing documentation for it, and that was kind of one of the bigger steps as well after getting the dispatcher in. Porting over to use a kind of SimToolkit specific nav data was quite a big step. The charts pullout is kind of just that. It's just a mini web browser that allows you to view their charts app online.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I mean, have you found that with all the different APIs you're using from different places within the simming environment, or just within X-Plane itself or P3D, are you getting help from these people when you request it? Are you getting good feedback, or they're like, nah, or you have to push hard to get the help? How's the community to help you?
A lot of people have been very, very forthcoming with help for it.
That's great.
The two main ones are obviously being SimBrief and Navigraph, and they've both been great getting in contact with both of them. Been very helpful to make everything work as well as it does now. A lot of the other APIs kind of just work, but there is obviously a reliance, because I'm relying on a third party. I have to make sure that there is plans in place if that data goes away for whatever reason. Because there was some issues with the weather system that I was using at the beginning of the year, so I had to kind of rewrite all of that. So I ended up removing a third party and going direct to the source for it now.
So I have a question taking us back a little bit to the beginning. So I'm already like floored by all this information. And I'll tell you, like, personally, the thing that surprised me the most about SimToolkitPro when I first installed it a few weeks ago was all these things that you have integrated in one place, because it truly does take its name like seriously, which is like it's a simulation toolkit, and it's like very professionally done. So
thank you.
Yeah, what floored me about what you were just saying here is that you're just kind of like casually saying like, oh, I just like threw this thing in, and then like meanwhile I'm just like, wow. So I have done some development myself. I've tinkered in iOS development, and I've most recently did Linux development a little bit. I have not touched Windows because the terminal scares me. It's so different from everything that I'm used to. So I just have not gone there. But I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you got to being able to make SimToolkitPro, and like what your experience is there.
So I, back in school, 16, 17, there wasn't any work experience in my area in the aviation industry, so I ended up doing a work experience with a local college in IT. Now, I'd always been fiddling with computers, so I ended up doing working in their IT department for a few weeks, learning how to do websites, and that kind of just stuck as a hobby until I left school and pursued that professionally. And that was kind of the theme of it for the next 8, 9, 10 years, ending probably 3 or 4 years ago when I was a developer at a fairly sizable game studio in the UK. And that's kind of given me the experience that I need to put into SimToolkit to develop it as quickly as I do, and to give it the platform that it has at the moment. So it has the scale of the projects that I've worked on has kind of prepared me for this project, especially with the amount that I'm having to deal with at the moment.
Yeah,
traffic and load wise.
Yeah, we've been talking about that. Well, I've been talking about that off and on with my flight simulation friends, how everything is really, really busy right now. Like, Norm is a streamer. He streams on YouTube every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and sometimes on the weekend. And he usually does the F&O, and I like to fly with Norm. I consider it our little bonding experience where since we're both pretty busy people, and besides us sitting down to talk with developers, we don't communicate that much. We've been talking a little bit more lately as I've worked to help him out in this Discord server, but overall we're both pretty busy people, so I consider that like our bonding time. We flew to Denver a few weeks ago, and it was so busy that I was stuck on the ground for 2 hours, and Norm made the right decision and decided to disconnect and then go from there. But I understand that worry. Well, not that worry, but that need to address things with how busy everything is getting right now. Because, I mean, if you just look at the numbers right now, there's so many people online. I think VATSIM has like almost 1,000 people online right now, and like that's a Thursday night. It's not usually like that. Now let me ask, are you doing this primarily by yourself, or do you have I know you spoke about Delaney earlier, or do you have other people who help you here and there, like more permanent people?
It's literally just me for the most part. There's obviously a really good group of people in the Discord, that are helping with feedback and testing, but for the purposes of development and running everything, it is just me. And there aren't enough hours in the day.
I hear you. I mean, that was going to be my question. Do you still get a chance to kick back, fire up the simulator, and just fly for fun? Do you ever do that now or no?
I do occasionally stream, and it does end up being the time that I do get to relax. I don't get to fly anywhere near as much as I used to, but I don't mind because I thoroughly enjoy working on this project. It's kind of been a driving force of keeping me out of trouble for the past 18 months. So
That's good. That is good.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you a specific question about one particular feature I see here? As I said, I haven't delved into it yet. Camera director to automate X-Plane level cameras. What is that exactly? If you could give me an explanation of it, because that might be something that might be used based on the title of it. What is it exactly?
Yeah, it's you can obviously assign in X-Plane the cameras to the num keys. When you assign those, you can actually, with the camera director, press the little magnifying button, and it will show you that camera. If that camera is enabled and you enable the director, it will cycle through your assigned cameras randomly every 20, 30 seconds, however often you specify it. It was a nice little feature for when streaming and in cruise, you could kind of focus on chat, have a talk with people who were speaking to you, and not have them staring at one particular view for the cruise.
I'm clapping right now, literally, like clapping, because I've been looking for this for so long. As you just said, when you're talking, you keep spamming the different camera view buttons, but if it could be automated, which now it is, just press the button, let it go, and it will do it.
Yeah, I need to implement something that plays an alarm near your top of descent so you don't fly past it like I regularly do.
True.
Honestly, that would be the billion-dollar idea.
That happens. It does.
Because I cannot tell you how many. Okay, so I love long haul flights. They're just so great. Because it also pressures me more to do a better landing. Because it's like, well, I've flown 6 hours. I better not screw it up now. And it seems to be working pretty well in practice. But I cannot tell you how many times I have flown a long haul, then gotten busy in something else, and then go back up to my computer to do something with like threshold or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's 300 plus miles past where I was supposed to go, and I'm about to run out of fuel. So that sounds like that sounds like the billion-dollar idea.
Pass over Heathrow at 30,000 feet. That's good.
Yeah.
No, that's.
Yeah, I mean,
I will be sorry, Sol. I will be delving into this and using it more. Just because of these built-in features in one app, so to speak. I like that. I mean, I gotta ask you though, for you, is it still a labor of love to make this and to develop this and work on this? And
absolutely, yeah. The just the feedback alone, people coming in and saying, "Oh, this has saved me opening 6 different applications. I can have YouTube in a tab, so I can be watching stuff in cruise." And yeah, the feedback alone makes it worthwhile. And I still thoroughly enjoy it. It's very rewarding to work on, and just I'm learning all the time. I'm learning so much about the aviation side of it and the development side of it. I'm not an expert in the technology I'm using, so I'm picking up more and more each day.
No,
so it's very, very rewarding project to work on.
So kind of going back to our little funny anecdote about the top of descent stuff and the little alarm. The first thing that came into my mind with that is like, a little app that gave you a notification if you were there. Is that something that you're ever going to consider doing? You obviously have a lot on your hands right now because you're working to do cross-platform design, and as we touched on earlier, that's no easy feat. But have you thought about going into that area and perhaps bringing SimToolkitPro to the mobile scene, or is that something just not on your radar right now? I'm too busy. I cannot be doing that.
There is plans to go into the app side of things. The first stage of that is going to be a web side to the app, so you can access it with a mobile browser. Just because obviously app development is quite time consuming.
Oh yeah.
So basically, it's going to start with a simple app that allow you to view your OFP, look at a live map of your flight, get weather information, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's
And then
awesome.
I'll see whatever everybody else wants to see in that app as well. So it allows you to control some aspects of the application over an app. Then I'll probably look at making a native version for the different devices in time.
Wow, I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right that mobile app development is no small feat, because when I was doing iOS stuff, like, you have to design the app for every single different phone that Apple has, and that is such
Yeah.
a hassle. So, I mean, good luck with that. And I'll
I
definitely,
think I'm going to need it.
yeah, I'll definitely be looking forward to it. But it's also cool to see that you're going into that area of learning once again, because I feel like sometimes I just see people who are afraid to learn and afraid to try new things, and you're just like, yeah, I'll dabble in that even though I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's like something really refreshing to see, you know?
Yeah, I've done some basic Android development. As for the Apple side of things, I've probably got less than 24 hours total in Mac OS
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
and probably iOS. But I have managed to get SimToolkit to run on a Mac, so that's a
That's
start, I
saying a
suppose.
lot.
Well, I suppose it's more of a testament to how good Electron is cross-platform more than anything, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that the conversion to Mac and Linux is actually a little bit easier though, because they both share their Unix space.
Yeah.
That's where it became easier for me to move into backend Mac stuff. For people who don't know, Linux is basically it's like a flavor of Unix. Linux is if you think about Mac updates, how you have Catalina and you have High Sierra and all of that as different operating systems, different versions of the operating system. But then you separate them and you pretend that High Sierra is like one version, one entirely different version of the iOS like operating system, and that what was the other one? Catalina is like another one. Then that's kind of what flavors are. They're like um, it's like a different version of Linux. Like a popular one is Ubuntu. Yeah, so I would imagine that part would be easier. But with Electron, it seems like you don't really have to worry about that, which is definitely a nice thing, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How does like Electron work? Do you just put code in for one, or and then it like develops them, it translates the code into the languages needed for other operating systems, or is there just a little bit of learning involved in there?
There's to an extent there is. What Electron basically boils down to is an instance of the Chrome browser that's very boiled down. So essentially, what you're writing is a website that runs in a specific version of Chrome, which takes away the element of having to design a website to run in Internet Explorer, which is just horrendous as it
Mhm.
is. But it kind of takes away when you're working with the file system side of things, it abstracts all that. So you don't ask for where the Mac user stores their documents. You just ask for the documents folder, and it will provide that information to you. So it kind of makes the cross-platform side is very ambiguously done. So you don't have to design specifically for an OS. There are obviously edge cases where you want to provide specific functionality for a Mac or on Linux or on Windows. But for the most part, everything, if it works on Windows, it should just work on the Mac and Linux.
What about talk about cross-platform? What about cross-sim? You do it for P3D and X-Plane. How hard or
Yep.
easy is that for you?
It wasn't too bad. X-Plane was the easiest one to get it working with, just because of, well, you've got one sim to work with. Um, I designed it for P3D v4, but with it, you reliance on FSU IPC, it should work right back to, I think it works right back to FSX as
Oh,
well,
not bad.
and maybe into the future, because there are plans to convert how it connects to P3D to use the native SimConnect
Ah,
SDK soon. So that's currently being rewritten just to make things a bit easier on that front and provide some future compatibility as well.
So I'm assuming that also it has to do with FS 2020 as well. You're going to look into doing that, or you're not allowed to say.
I absolutely am. I just wish they'd let me in to test it.
welcome to the club, man. I haven't even seen it.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, it would be nice to get my hands on it, but from what I've heard and read, it kind of should just work as long as I can get SimConnect to work with the current ESP-based sims that are out. It should just work nicely with the new simulator. Hopefully.
Awesome.
We'll hope.
There won't be an Xbox version of SimToolkitPro though.
Taking it too far.
Before anyone gets excited, yeah.
Taking it too far in that one. Yeah, I hear you. Now, I'm going to delve into it here. Let me ask you, this is a straight freeware product, is it?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So basically,
100%.
just from the generosity of the community, you do accept donations, correct?
Yeah, but it's like people spreading the word is more than enough for me.
I got you.
It's been designed in such a way that it is like everything's stored locally. I have very, very limited expenses when it comes to the actual platform behind this.
Awesome.
Because of how it's been developed. Because of that, it can be free and remain free that way.
That's good.
Oh, so you have like your own server that you run it off of?
Yeah, I think it's currently running on 2 servers. One of them that handles the releases and one that handles the APIs and things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's eventually my goal for my house is to have a server so that I don't have to worry about space and so that I'm able to work like that. So that's awesome. That because that's what my question was going to be running off of norms is like if you're not accepting donations, like some of the stuff I know is not like completely like free data in order to keep. So that totally answers my question.
Yeah, the monthly running costs are kept absolutely minimal. It's just making decent choices with like who's providing the servers and if this provider offers something that's more appropriate, then switching to them. It's been able to not be sort of pigeonholed with a provider for a particular part or the service that they offer. So I'm like choosing at the moment. We're looking at working with Amazon for the new installer platform, and the current servers and the current systems are on DigitalOcean. So
yeah, I mean, I have to say, just listen to you talk and talking about payware, freeware, donationware, whatever. Just the overall kindness and friendliness of the whole sim community has me blown away. That people like yourself can come out with a product, get support, get help, get feedback, and just have this one nice ecosystem for us. I'm not saying there's not problems, there's not picky customers or people who want specific needs met that are impossible, but I like the fact that what you're bringing to the table to the overall sim community. I mean, it's respected by me and appreciated, man. No, I'm sure you've heard it before, but I got to say it to you. Definitely, it is this that a tool like this makes you want to fly every day. It brings you back for more.
yeah, it's the feedback I've been getting and the people that send me messages and things like that is incredibly humbling that people are using it and are getting as much enjoyment out of it as they do. It's something that I never expected it to get to this. I think in the first month, I put it up on the org forums. It probably had 20 or 30 downloads. And the current version that's been out for 4 days has just had over 4,500 downloads.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I started tracking stats back in March because up to sort of February this year, there was kind of like 20, 30 flights on at a time. So I wasn't tracking anything. There was no sort of analytics running on it beyond basic version tracking, that kind of thing. And like sort of the numbers at the moment, 34,000 dispatched flights since I think it was March the 1st,
Jeez.
and 31,000 unique users of the application in that time as well.
Whoa, that's a big number.
That is a huge
Yeah,
number.
3,000 users active in the last 24 hours, and 1,200 flights using SimToolkitPro have been completed in the past 24 hours as well.
1,200
So
flights in 24 hours.
how
Jeez.
exactly did this explosion of users happen?
I'm not entirely sure. I think back in November time, I know that Q8 Pilot did like an intro video. He was one of the first people that drew any sort of attention to it. That caused like my web traffic went through the roof that week, and that kind of was probably the main catalyst for it. From there, more and more people have picked it up and interacting on the Discord, people telling other people. And then in January time, a couple of larger streamers started picking it up and using it. Like seeing big streamer names on the live map was very surreal for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh wow, these people are using it?
Wow.
Chewy? What?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it's kind of just grown from there. So we've got John Fly uses it, Chewy uses it. Loads of the larger streamers are starting to pick it up and use it for pretty much every flight that they do, and that caused probably the biggest explosion, which has been over the past couple of months. And it's gone from something that a few people knew about and like kind of told the friends to use it and look into it, to something that's now used as much as it is.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of part of the secret, is that if you get the streamers on your side, then then you're kind of winning.
They're great for business. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, if anybody paying attention has noticed that XP was the second guest on Inflight, then maybe you'll see where I'm coming from.
Yep, it's true.
With that. Yeah, I mean, it's also crazy to hear you say that and think about how the community goes about deciding what they would like to use. Because it's just like all it takes is like a good word, and then you have all these people who are behind you who are really trying to help you out and make the best product that you can. And like it shows. Like it's I personally, looking at it now, can't imagine what your version of it looked like when it was just like for developers and not for actual users who need a solid GUI in order to make it run, because it's just like so intuitive at this point. It makes sense for it to click to go to places, and knowing a lot of that came from the community just like is quite humbling, I must say, to see that we're like capable of that, and we're capable of like helping somebody to make something amazing, just like the fact that Delaney just like helped you out with this. And Delaney's a great guy, friend of mine. Well, he's more friends he's closer friends with people I work with, but I've talked to him like a few times. And just like the fact that he just like hopped in and helped you out is just like so amazing. And it's like just great to see everybody coming together. And
he was one of the first people I actually spoke to when I started streaming, doing flight sim stuff. He kind of happened by my stream, got talking, became very good friends. Met him at Cosford 2 years ago, and then met him again for the most recent one as well. Speak to him very regularly.
Were you going to go to Flight Sim Expo? Yeah, that's what it's called.
I would have loved to, but it's a little bit out of my reach as that at the moment.
Yeah, we were looking forward to going to that. It's a shame that it didn't end. It's a shame that it was canceled. But at the end of the day, it's like the right thing to do, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I mean, continuing on with that whole thing that I was mentioning with the flight simulation community kind of helping other people out, it's great to see that they're trying to let the community decide what comes next of it. I mean, Norm and I talked about that a few episodes ago, how that was like a really great thing to see, that they were willing to take feedback on that. so I mentioned that we had somebody else earlier today before we started recording, and that was Roy, who is the creator of XP Realistic, and he and I and Norm as well talked about how it feels like the community is in a great place when it comes to like supporting each other and also seeing whatever products come next. I mean, you don't have to like say if you disagree with that or agree with it or not, but I think that you're also a great example of that yourself, because you started off making this thing and then everybody has helped you out, and then it's led to this really great product that so many people enjoy. And this SimToolkit Pro as a whole just makes flight simming better for everybody, and we're just in that wave of like great products coming out to make flight simulation the best it can be, and for that, like, I thank you. It's great.
Yeah, it's I think the biggest thing that I had to deal with was kind of just going, you don't know everything there is to know about this, so you need to just take people's feedback and run with that.
Yeah.
So kind of just going, this isn't what you do, you need to get other people to help you here, and then rolling with that and applying what I do know to what they want to see. But because there was never any commercialization planned with the project, there's not that drive there. There's not trying to shoehorn things in to make it sell better. It's just got to perform better. It has to have higher quality data. It has to run better on people's PCs, if that means like reducing some of the features to make sure that everybody has the same experience, then that's so be it. That's what it has to happen. So it's the kind of the with the goals being different, and the goal being to create something that's accessible, of high quality with the data that you get from it. It kind of realigns how you develop something like that, especially when you're using a community to help you and guide you along the way.
How do you manage the fact that some people need some features to not be there and some people want other features, but one feature might compromise like the performance? How do you figure out for yourself what you want to do in order to make the experience the best for everybody?
It kind of would boil down to a greater good with it. If more people are going to benefit from it, then it would be a detriment to. Then it kind of will go in, but there'll be concessions made to try and lessen any impact that it has. Um, Everything's designed to be modular with SimToolkit, so the newest version that you've got, it's been removed, but it's going to come back. You can actually disable entire parts of the application if you don't use it.
Oh,
So if you don't use the planning part, you can disable it. If you don't use the streaming tools, they can just be disabled. So disabling them means
running.
they're not using up any resources as well.
Awesome. Does it matter if we get SimToolkit Pro from the org forum or from your website, simtoolkitpro.co.uk? Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter at
Not at
all.
all.
They all will update and auto update from the same central point.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, so there's a website for it, guys, if you guys are listening. Simtoolkitpro.co.uk is a direct website, or you can find it on the the explain.org forums, and you'll get tons of help there. This is what I like also. Questions answered. You can ask any question about a product, and somebody will step up and tell you what to do or what not to do on it. And I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions about stuff too when I get really into it, and transition myself over to using it now, since I realize how powerful it is just by talking to you on it. But yeah, it's great stuff, man. Absolutely great stuff.
Yeah, and for reference, the reason Dan mentioned the new version is that Norm and I checked out the new version that's coming out this weekend. So we've been able to take a quick peek at it. It looks great, and you guys, it'll most likely be released by the time that we are actually airing this episode. But I hope that you guys are enjoying it, because it's a very clean design, and Delaney, you've done a great job.
Nice.
Yeah, he's done a spectacular job with it.
Now, besides the expansion to Mac and Linux users, what do you have in plans for the future? Because it's doing so much right now. And there's of course a few things that I can think of to add, but I also feel like you may have that balance in your head. Like you don't want to add too much to the point that it's cluttered. So what are your plans for the future of SimToolkit Pro?
Yeah, I think at the moment I'm kind of reeling everything in and kind of reassessing the project, because there are plans for expansions. The next major update, 0.6, is going to add an online account system, which is entirely optional. So you can run SimToolkit as you do now, or you can create an account and it'll create a surface backup of your logs. So if you lose a hard drive or something, you can recover every part of your log that you need. It doesn't keep everything, just because of obviously the data size. If I'm storing everybody's flight data, then the storage costs ramp up. But just keeping a basic flight log for recovery is something that's absolutely doable. So that's kind of planned next. But feature-wise, it is kind of like I don't want to be having to redesign it every 6 to 8 months to accommodate new features. So I'm kind of reassessing how it's all going to fit in with this new look at the moment. But there's plenty planned, and I've got a ton of suggestions to work through on the Discord that people keep pouring in for changes and things that they'd like to see. But I do have kind of a rough guide of where it's going through this year.
That's great to hear that you're already planning through this year. Lord knows I do not plan some things as far in advance. I mean, sometimes podcast agreements for times happen like a day before, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got to do that.
Yeah, you can't plan anything.
Yeah, but we're both, I'm sure, really looking forward to seeing what you do in this next year and what 0.6 looks like, because it's already amazing. You deserve all of the credit that you've gotten from the community and all of the great feedback that you've gotten as well, because it's really great, and I just love how everything is in one place, because sometimes it's just a hassle to start everything up, and having to only start one thing is really great. And I really wish you luck in the next year. And if there's anything I can do to help you at all, like any feedback you need, because you don't have enough of
always
that already.
Take feedback.
Right. Then please.
I keep
please
my to-do list on a roll now.
Yeah,
it's easier.
Right.
Yeah, I'll make it my goal in this next year to have you have so many things to do on your to-do list that you don't know what to do with yourself. But yeah, thank you so much for talking with us about this, and I'm really looking forward to see what it becomes, and maybe in the future we can revisit this and we can talk about it more and what that experience has been like continuing on.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
All right. Thank you so much, man, for being a part of the Flight Sim community and contributing in such a positive manner. Definitely. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good deal.
Thank you.